On January 30th, Egyptians rallied for the 6th day in a row, defying a 4 p.m. curfew and streaming into Meydan al-Tahrir, Liberation Square, and demanded for Mubarak to step down.
It's really hard to tell factions apart because everyone at this point is marching together. You can see a man in a cropped galabiya and a big beard and a big zabiba, the prayer mark, marching alongside a young leftist woman with big curly hair and a tank top on. So it's quite extraordinary to see. You see families, you see families bringing their children out, everyone, everywhere, taking souvenir photos with the tanks and giving the thumbs up to the military, flashing the peace sign. People have overturned crates and are standing on them to sort of speak to crowds, and so there's all these sort of impromptu speakers bureaus dotted throughout Tahrir Square. It is sort of a carnival-like atmosphere, except, there's also an undercurrent of fear in it too, because you can still smell the burning in the air from the ruling National Democratic Party's headquarters, which is right there. You can still see tanks outside the National Museum where 2 mummies were destroyed earlier this week. So people are jubilant and happy and excited, but also quite nervous. As the situation is growing more dire in terms of lack of food and basic services, people are growing antsier and they seem to be more preoccupied with where to find their next meal than joining the crowds in Tahrir to chant and have the show of force against the regime. It feels at this moment like the regime is living on borrowed time. It does feel very much like it's in its sort of last stretch of 30 years. And I can't imagine that these protesters will be pacified by anything less than his removal. No reshuffling, no last-ditch price slashing and new economic initiatives that the government announced tonight. No appointment of a vice president after 30 years with no second in command. I just don't think any of these sort of desperate-looking measures are going to have an effect.
Later in the evening, protesters were joined by Mohammed al-Baradei, Nobel laureate and former Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, who has become a leading figure in the opposition movement. While most of the crowd greeted al-Baradei enthusiastically, some Egyptians questioned his role.
Mohammed al-Baradei appeared to the forefront of the Egyptian politics since a long time. He appeared as a neutral figure and a devoted technocrat. He is successful in maintaining a sort of balance in the world politics. His reputation that time was stemming from his ability to confront for a far extent some American allegations in the UN and basically in the Security Council before the occupation of Iraq. In 2009, December, basically in a series of interviews with newspaper, Mohammed al-Baradei showed his intention to, and he said he might nominate himself as a candidate for presidency who can enjoy a lot of consensus between the political parties and political opposition groups in Egypt. In that time, Mohammed al-Baradei became a figure of heated discussion in the Egyptian newspaper between the opposition parties, opposition movement, and on the other hand, the supporters and opponents of regime. He didn't come from ideological or a certain political background. He didn't belong to a certain political party, but in that time, Egyptian social and political movement was looking for a leader. So there was a question: is Mohammed al-Baradei is the coming leader or the appropriate leader for opposition in Egypt who can transform the country from dictatorship, from authoritarian rule to a democratic one? Since May 2010 till July 2010, Mohammed al-Baradei conducted a number of discussions, a number of interviews in the TV, a number of meetings with political activists, with Muslim Brotherhood, with leftist groups, with other opposition parties, liberal opposition parties in Egypt, and he just opened a big debate about his presidency. Mohammed al-Baradei came to the forefront of the political scene while Egypt was facing two main problems. First problem was the leaders of opposition parties and Muslim Brotherhood are using a little bit elitist discourse, which is a little bit separated and detached from the daily needs and daily demands of the people in the streets. So this was the first problem. Second problem was this disengagement between the social movement, basically the worker and peasant strikes, and the political movement, the political parties and the Muslim Brotherhood. So these two problems was the main challenges for al-Baradei in June and July. And unfortunately, al-Baradei, since July, was completely consumed in his international agenda, being outside Egypt and being involved in a number of talks, a number of events outside the country. And this made a lot of people, basically the youth activists, very disappointed about him. In November, when the police and the state used brutal violence against people who went to vote in the parliamentary elections, Mohammed al-Baradei was in Brazil, and he just ceased to send a short message about the condemnation of the regime from Brazil through Twitter and Facebook. So the only channel which people used to know Mohammed al-Baradei basically since July 2010 was YouTube and his speeches. I would say the guy have many positive points in his caliber, in his career, and many things that would nominate himself to entitle the position of leading the Egyptian opposition. First, he's not corrupt. Second, he knows well how to govern administratively, okay, from his background in the UN. And he seems like a figure of consensus. He's a little bit liberal. He belongs to a liberal democratic background, secular background, but he is able to gather all these people. Muslim Brotherhood first welcomed him in a very shy way, not straightforwardly. And then they participated with him in two big demonstrations, and said we are going to coordinate with him. And he seems a man that we can be the face of the opposition, including the Muslim Brotherhood. So there was sort of negotiation and coordination and talks between the Muslim Brotherhood and Mohammed al-Baradei, which is something good. Mohammed al-Baradei also has an idea about moderate Islam, about the civil Islamic parties in Morocco and in Turkey in specific. And he was endorsing and trying to push this forward to the talks with the Muslim Brotherhood, basically with the parliamentary bloc in the previous elections. Now the scene in Egypt that Muslim Brotherhood are not in the front, are not leading the demonstration, but still one of the most important, if not the most important, political power, organized power in the political scene. He was received in Tahrir Square in a good way, and people welcomed him, and he gave a speech. But some people, I don't know what's the percentage, but some people, it was obvious that they don't welcome him, and they feel that he is elitist, and feels that he is not from these people. Next days in Egypt is going to impose real challenges on whoever come to lead the oppositions. First, the negotiation about the future role of the army, of the military institutions, how the army is the army going to enjoy a veto power or a blocking card in the Egyptian politics? How far he is going to negotiate and going to impose the popular demands on the army leaders in the future, and how much concessions he's going to give. He has to understand well that the bourgeoisie democracy he is talking about since he came to Egypt will not fit the new scene, will not fit the new status quo, the balance of power, because there is many factors that led to this moment. And the long history of new liberal and privatization economic policy in Egypt led to the highest rate of poverty of the Egyptian among the Egyptian people, and the uneven development between the countryside and the cities, the problem of the south of Upper Egypt, the problem of peasants, a lot of problems. He has to know that there must be a radical change coming to Egypt. I am actually concerned about not to seize on this moment, not to just stop on these limits, on just parliamentary elections, on free votes, which is important, but only we have other battles, we have other concerns. Most of the people know about the Baradei. Who else could be? I don't think Muslim Brotherhood and other opposition groups, they don't have the courage and the ability and the capacity to nominate somebody. Maybe some people from Ban-Nasserist, Ban-Arabist or Nasserist groups, maybe some more from the from Kifaya movement, maybe somebody who have a civil Islamic background. Al-Baradei can be the man of the moment, okay, can be the leader of a revolution, and can be a fence sitter.
The Muslim Brotherhood and other opposition groups have nominated him to negotiate on their behalf with the regime. Mubarak has yet to indicate that he is willing to participate in such negotiations. This is Dania Nadar for the Real News Network.